Today on Scripps News Live, America's economy is moving in the right direction.
I'm economics correspondent Bianca Ficini, and I'll have all the details on the latest GDP report, which came in better than analyst expectations.
And I'm congressional correspondent Stephanie Liebergen at the White House. President Biden will tout that new report in a speech this afternoon, but he's also expected to take some swipes. I'll explain.
Plus, Russia launches a brutal air assault on Ukraine and accuses the West of getting directly involved in its war by promising to send tanks to the front lines. Plus, it could be one of the worst cases of corruption the FBI has ever uncovered in its own ranks.
My response to Charlie McGonigal being charged was shock, anger, and then worry.
We're taking you inside the case against a former top-ranked FBI official turned federal defendant. Scripps News Live begins right now. Happening now, that Dow Jones trading in the green today alongside all of the indices. Stocks are rising on the heels of a promising new GDP report. Hello to you, I'm Veronica. Cruz. Great to see you on this Thursday. Welcome to your Thursday edition of Scripps News Live. Now, that GDP report beat analysts' expectations, and the new numbers show that the American economy is remaining strong, recording 2.9% growth in the fourth quarter, a robust job market, lower inflation, all helping the U.S. to end the year on a high note. President Biden certain to tout these new numbers when he delivers a major speech on the economy this afternoon, but he's also expected to take aim at legislation proposed by Republicans to abolish the IRS and enact a 30% national sales tax. Our Scripps News correspondents have complete economic coverage for you today. Our Stephanie Liebergen is at the White House. She has a preview of the president's speech, but we begin right here with economics correspondent Bianca Ficini, who is live in Washington for us. All right, Bianca, this new report out looks better than expected. Walk us through the numbers.
Hey, Veronica, the latest report shows that GDP grew at 2.9% in the fourth quarter of 2022. Now, that is a little bit lower than what we saw in the previous quarter at 3.2%, but it is higher than what most economists were expecting to see, anywhere between that 2.6 to 2.7% range. So a little bit better than expected. And I also do want to point out two specific things about this report. The first is that the personal saving rate was 2.9%. That is up from 2.7% in the third quarter of the year. So personal savings have gone up. And then on top of that, you also have real disposable income increasing 3.3%. That's compared to 1% in the previous quarter. So both of these factors could explain the increase we saw in consumer spending in this particular report. Overall, again, lower than the third quarter, but better than expected. So it does sort of challenge some of those questions about whether we could see a recession looming at all in 2023, especially when you consider that inflation is falling. However, this is just, one of many data reports that we're going to get. Tomorrow, we're going to get another read on inflation when the PCE report comes out at 8:30 a.m. That report is expected to show inflation growing at the slowest rate in all of 2022. So that could be some more good news if it does, in fact, come in at about 5%, which is what most economists are expecting. It's also the last inflation report that Fed officials will get their hands on before they meet next week, when they are expected to announce another interest rate hike. But that hike is not expected to be at the same rate that we saw throughout most of 2022. So we're likely in for another rate hike, but it's probably going to be smaller, which should be some more good news to consumers, because I think we're all sick of dealing with those spiking interest rates, Veronica.
Yeah, I think the last time you and I talked, we had said that that you were expecting maybe 25 basis points from Powell, which is probably one of the smallest increases that we have seen. But again, we're going to have to see what he does with this information. And I know that they're meeting on the 1st. Bianca Ficini reporting live from Washington. Bianca, thank you. Again, a programming note, the president set to deliver his major speech on the economy. It's going to happen this afternoon, 2:45 p.m. Eastern. Biden sure to focus on this morning's strong economic report. He is also expected to take House Republicans to task over their recent economic proposals. Congressional correspondent Stephanie Liebergen continues our team coverage right here from the White House. And Stephanie, the president is going to Virginia after another better than expected economic report. What else is on his agenda today?
Hey, Veronica, good afternoon. Well, Biden heading to Springfield, Virginia. It's a suburb here in the D.C. area. We're really expecting him to highlight the economic progress that we've heard the White House talk about a lot over the last 2 years. They're going to point to the strong job growth numbers over the last 2 years, that unemployment is at its lowest point in about 50 years, lowest point since 1969. Also, growth in the number of new small businesses that are being created. The White House continually saying all of those things are good news. All of those things show that the country is going in the right direction. We're also expecting to hear the president talk about keeping his promise on, building the economy from the bottom up and middle out. That's the phrase we hear the president and White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre use so frequently in talking about how this administration is approaching the need to improve the economy. And they'll point to the last 2 years of what was able to get accomplished in the last Congress, the number of bipartisan pieces of legislation got through, the infrastructure law, the Inflation Reduction Act, even though that one wasn't so bipartisan, the American Rescue Plan, the CHIPS Science Bill, talking about how all of those big pieces of legislation are all aimed at helping the economy improve and get better. And that, however, he's going to be countering, showing all of the things that he has been accomplished in the last 2 years with what he says Republicans are going to try to do now that they have control of the House majority. We've seen a bill from the House Republicans proposing to abolish the IRS and basically get rid of that and replace everything with a 30% national sales tax. Now, we're not expecting that bill to go anywhere, but it has been introduced in the House, and so it gives Democrats and President Biden and the White House something that they can criticize. It's a bill with a couple dozen co-sponsors, a piece of legislation that we see introduced a lot of Congresses as a conservative Republican talking point. So we'll get a little bit of a contrast. The president's expected to present between what he has done over the last 2 years, what he plans to continue doing over the next 2 years, and what the Biden White House is saying that the Republican plans will only make inflation worse, will only make gas prices worse. So a little compare and contrast expected in the president's speech this afternoon. Again, set to start at 2:45 Eastern time, Veronica. But as we know, presidents not often very timely with their speeches and with their what they make in the afternoon. So always a little flexibility there as well.
Yeah, you got that right. All right, Stephanie, we will be checking back with you. Thank you for that. So cooling inflation is one major factor that played into this morning's strong GDP. Prices for things like clothing and electronics have been going down, but there's one very important category that still remains red hot: food prices. And they continue to rise. Prices for grains like cereal and baked goods, they're up 16.1% from last year. Egg prices, they're blowing those numbers right out of the water. Now, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they are up 138% from year to year. So what is behind this dramatic price jump? Egg producers have been blaming a spike in avian flu, as well as higher costs to move eggs through the supply chain. But one farmer-led advocacy group has been alleging foul play. Members of Farm Action have sent a letter to the FTC accusing this country's major egg producers of price gouging customers and colluding with one another to set those prices high and keep them there. Now, that group is calling on the FTC to investigate the high price of eggs, and so far the agency is declining to comment. But the president of the American Egg Board says it anticipates a drop in prices in the coming weeks.
I think as you see that demand come down ever so slightly post-holiday, as you see hopefully input costs of fuel and packaging and all of that start to come down a little bit here in the new year, I hope the market will level out. I know our farmers do as well.
Cal-Maine Foods, which boasts a 20% share of the retail egg market, has reported a 600% jump in profits year to year in late December. It's one company blaming high egg prices on low supply due to the avian flu, but it also confirms there have been no positive avian flu tests on any of its farms. We have much more to come for you in this hour of Scripps News Live. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump threatening to sue the state of Florida over its plans to drop a class on African American studies. Also, a group of bipartisan senators alleging the Biden administration is blocking access to classified documents uncovered at his home and private office. And a judge ordering the release of surveillance video taken at Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi's home the night that her husband Paul was brutally attacked. But first, a new revelation complicating the search for motive in the mass shooting in Monterey Park, California. as police admit the gunman didn't know any of his victims. Plus, Vice President Kamala Harris paying tribute to the people killed in that attack, as correspondent James Packard introduces us to one man who travels the country to provide support for victims of gun violence. We'll be right back.
This year, Americans will spend $41 billion on auto repairs.
That's right, billions with a B. Why is that number so high? Because cars break down. Your vehicle is going to end up in a shop like this too, and if it's no longer under warranty, you're the one who has to pay the bill, and it could cost you thousands of dollars. That is, unless you call CarShield. With a plan through CarShield, administrators will pay for those costly repairs directly to the mechanic of your choice, including dealerships. That means you get protection on major parts and systems like the engine, transmission, electrical systems, and more. Plus, 24/7 emergency services for flat or damaged tires, lockouts, dead batteries, and towing at no additional cost. And there are even rental car options to keep you on the road.
An unexpected car repair can wreak havoc in somebody's house when they don't have the money. Nobody should have to decide whether they should put food on the table or pay for a car repair. If you're driving an out-of-warranty car, it's not a matter of if it'll break down, it's when. So you need to call CarShield before it does. It's nice to find a company like CarShield that actually cares about their customers.
CarShield has a rich history of dependability, reliability, and success, and has been featured on leading networks like ABC, CNN, Fox News, and more. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company.
My mom told me to call CarShield, and I saved $5,000. You should always listen to your mom.
As soon as my car broke down, CarShield jumped into action, and I had my car back within days.
I've been with CarShield for close to 7 years. I have 3 vehicles covered, and I saved close to $9,000.
I called CarShield and saved over $5,000.
Yes, CarShield is a good value. Every plan through CarShield comes with a price lock guarantee, which means no matter how many repairs you need, the price you pay today will never change for as long as you cover your car.
Call now and save money with your price lock guarantee. It's not a matter of if your car will break down, but when. Call CarShield now before it's too late. Call 800-287-5264. 800-287-5264.
On the next in real life.
When you think of Wisconsin, you think beer, cheese, the Packers. But that perception is changing. Wine now goes with the tailgate.
These grapes are here to stay. It's appealing to a new generation of wine drinkers.
The climate is changing. That means where grapes grow are also changing too. Hard day's work.
In real life. Sunday night at 8:30, 7:30 Central. Only on Scripps News.
Los Angeles County sheriffs say the suspect who killed 11 people at a dance studio Saturday night has no known connection to the victims. Authorities still haven't come up with a motive for the attack, which injured 9 other people in Monterey Park. Some reports say the 72-year-old attacker frequented the dance hall and fancied himself as an instructor. However, the sheriff says the man hasn't been there in at least 5 years. The attacker later died by suicide. Vice President Kamala Harris met with the families of Monterey Park victims yesterday. She placed a bouquet of yellow lilies and white roses at a memorial outside the dance studio. The vice president kept her remarks brief, urging Congress to pass meaningful gun reform. She urged lawmakers to have the courage to do the right thing. National correspondent James Packard has more on the vice president's visit and the investigation itself. James?
It was a really somber mood out here as Vice President Kamala Harris showed up and looked at this memorial, took time to stop at each photo of the victims up against that wall behind me, and then laid a bouquet of flowers on what has already become a sea of flowers and candles in front of this dance studio. She came up and talked to the press very briefly and was asked on her way back toward her motorcade if this Congress, this specific newly sworn in Congress with Republicans in control in the House, could get anything meaningful done on gun reform. Listen to what she said.
Can they do something? Yes. Should they do something? Yes.
Will they?
Will they do something? That is where we all must speak up and speak to our elected representatives.
This coming after California's governor called the Second Amendment a suicide pact. She came out here and offered condolences, but also said, we have to hold those in power accountable. Governor Newsom has been calling very forcefully on the federal government to do something on guns. In the meantime, what's left for this community to do is to mourn, grieve, try to put the pieces back together. And there's one organization we ran into out here that has built a oddly familiar way to sort of reclaim the public space, they call it, for those who need to grieve. Outside the sites of mass shootings all over the country, memorials like this one have become familiar, part of a gruesome routine, one that almost blurs from one school to another workplace to a dance hall near Los Angeles. But here,
I'm here along with my partner David, both as artists in Angelina's.
Noah Reich is trying to create a temple of sorts for the innocent lives caught in the crossfire of a sickness we refuse to treat.
What we'll be doing is beginning to put portraits representing each of the 11 victims from this shooting into the center of these altars.
Reich started his group, Classroom of Compassion, in 2018. It was little surprise his work was needed in no time at all, right down the highway from his home in Los Angeles.
So the first shooting that we showed up to in the days after the event was the Borderline Bar and Grill shooting that took place miles away from here in Thousand Oaks.
Since then, he's been to some 20 other mass shootings, from Uvalde to Buffalo to Colorado Springs.
We travel to different communities representing Los Angeles or on behalf of the warmth and love of Los Angeles.
Then it hit home.
I was shocked how close to home it was.
When it sunk in, I mean, it was just a jarring and just a chilling realization.
What happened here in Monterey Park on Saturday night is really the first tragedy since the start of this that has taken place in our backyard.
Each altar, as he calls them, is unique, constructed for each event, for each life cut short.
What we work to do in the weeks ahead is create matching sets, like a tabletop version of these altars that we work to give to each of the families after these tragedies.
Some token of love, of compassion, for a family in a solemn club that just keeps growing.
It's hard enough taking in the number of losses of these tragedies, let alone remembering that each of these people had loved ones, had families, loved dancing, had these whole lives ahead of them.
And Noah tells me that he hopes he can continue to do this work in a really heartbreaking way. He says he thinks his organization actually can grow so they can do more of this work in more places. The sad thing that that's where we are as a country. I'm James Packard in Monterey Park, California.
All right, James, thank you. Now to Virginia, the Newport News School Board firing Superintendent George Parker III. The decision comes hours after Abby Zwerner announced her intention to sue the school board. She is the teacher who police say was shot by a 6-year-old student. Her lawyers say school authorities were warned several times that the student had a gun on the day of the shooting. They say another student, 6-year-old, showed him the gun and threatened to shoot him if he told. They also say that another administrator was denied permission to search the child's backpack.
Abby Zwerner was shot in front of those horrified kids, and the school and community are living the nightmare. All because the school administration failed to act. Were they not so paralyzed by apathy, they could have prevented this tragedy.
Now, Toscano says Werner is recovering at home, and the attorney says the psychological scars will be lasting. Authorities say the child's family legally purchased that gun that was used in the shooting. Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, Moscow accusing the West of, quote, direct involvement in its war after the U.S. and Germany pledged to send tanks to Ukraine. Also, Arizona's new Democratic governor making a move that might surprise you. Why Katie Hobbs says she'll keep busing migrants out of her state. That's next.
One more time before you wake up in the wild. In your eyes, I see a flower slowly dying.
You have the power to make a difference. For unspoiled nature, for beautiful wildlife, and for people everywhere. When you join the Nature Conservancy today, Call now or go online to joinnature.org to become a conservation champion today. For just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Your ongoing monthly support will help conserve threatened land and waters, protect endangered wildlife and their habitats, create a healthier path forward for all of us who share this planet.
Oh, in the wild, you're gonna make it. The moonlight is here to take you.
For just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, you can join other conservation champions. Use your credit card today and get our award-winning magazine, our calendar, and this special Nature Conservancy picnic blanket to thank you for helping protect the wild wonders of nature. Every day, we lose more lands, waters, and the wild species that depend on them. We urgently need steady monthly support from nature lovers like you. Together, we can find a way to ensure that all life on Earth can thrive.
You'll be alright in the wild. Run where you want to. The sunrise is there to guide you.
Please call or go online to joinnature.org now. Become a conservation champion today. Thank you.
If you're living with diabetes, this sound may save your life. A continuous glucose monitor provides glucose readings and alerts you in real time to potential lows and harmful spikes without painful finger sticks. It's easy, convenient, and proven to lower your A1C. If you administer insulin, you may qualify for a continuous glucose monitor at no cost to you. Call now. It could save your life. Just call 800-233-6176. This new GCM technology immediately eliminates your pain and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. That means no more guessing. It's easy to see your glucose number any time of the day. Call now and get free shipping. Plus, we'll bill your insurance company for you. Satisfaction guaranteed. Don't wait until it's too late. Take control of your diabetes now. Just call 800-233-6176. That's 800-233-6176.
Municipal bonds don't usually get the media coverage the stock market does. In fact, most people don't find them all that exciting. But if you're looking for the potential for consistent income that's federally tax-free, now is an excellent time to consider municipal bonds from Henyon & Walsh. If you have at least $10,000 to invest, call and talk with one of our bond specialists at 1-800-465-8465. We'll send you our exclusive bond guide, free, with details about how bonds can be an important part of your portfolio. Henyon & Walsh has specialized in fixed income and growth solutions for 30 years and offers high-quality municipal bonds from across the country. They provide the potential for regular income, are federally tax-free, and have historically low risk. Call today to request your free bond guide. 1-800-465-8465. That's 1-800-465-8465.
This just into Scripps News Live. The Shelby County, Tennessee DA says that he's going to be holding a news conference at 3 p.m. Eastern. DA Steve Mulroy expected to present new information in the death of 29-year-old Tyree Nichols. He's the Memphis man who died 3 days after a violent confrontation with police during a traffic stop. In a video statement released last night, the city's police chief said 5 police officers were fired after Nichols' death, and they were, quote, directly responsible for his death. And that the behavior captured on body cam video of the confrontation amounted to, quote, physical abuse. We'll keep you updated. Let's get you now to Arizona, where newly installed Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs making a move that's come as a surprise to many people. She says that she will keep busing migrants out of her state through a program started by her Republican predecessor. Governor Hobbs telling the Arizona Sun newspaper that her administration will ensure migrants will be moved in a way that is, quote, efficient and humane, and that her office will ensure the humanitarian aspects of the issue are addressed. Republican Governor Doug Ducey, who Hobbs replaced, spent an estimated $7 million to bus more than 3,000 migrants from Arizona to Washington, D.C. during his tenure. Now, Arizona is one of several red states that's turned to busing migrants north. And though the practice is controversial to some people, there are legitimate questions about how border states should handle this influx of migrants. Correspondent Maya Rodriguez reports for us from San Antonio.
Despite being more than 100 miles from the U.S.-Mexico border, hundreds of thousands of migrants have made their way to San Antonio during the past 2 years. So we decided to come here to see how they handled that surge and what other cities might be able to learn from what they did here. For more than 175 years,
it is a great thing to work together.
The congregation of Travis Park Church,
better things can come about,
served as a refuge for all who seek their help.
We've seen waves of crises, and we mitigate those and manage those as we need.
Gavin Rogers is associate pastor here and director of Corazon San Antonio. It's ministry that normally serves people experiencing homelessness.
Corazon Clinic's been going around for 25 years.
But in the past several years, they've taken on an additional mission.
We started serving migrants and asylum seekers that were coming through San Antonio that have been either released from detention or have been given temporary asylum.
In San Antonio, that's added up to helping a lot of migrants, hundreds of thousands since 2019. And at Travis Park Church,
since 2019, we've helped sleep over 33,000 people in the Sunday school classrooms and in different rooms here at the church, and helped even thousands of more during the day get to the right places. And we're this small little entity.
But they are a critical one. When the most recent surge at the border began, the city of San Antonio established a migrant resource center. That effort pulled together several area nonprofits, including Catholic Charities, the Food Bank, and Travis Park Church, among others.
The services that we offer here are a place to wait, Wi-Fi, food, showers, and transportation.
Alex Obregon helps migrants coming through the doors here.
There's a lot of emotions with it. Yeah, it is a lot. I mean, I think even being here and doing the work, sometimes it can be hard to process.
The result? A relatively smooth process in handling their migrant surge.
Buenos días, ¿cómo están?
And a far cry from how larger cities have dealt with it, like New York City, whose mayor, Eric Adams, recently traveled to visit the border in El Paso.
Our cities are being undermined, and we don't deserve this. Migrants don't deserve this. And the people who live in the cities don't deserve this.
I really encourage him to come and see how San Antonio is doing it, because I think it's a better model than just going to border towns, because cities of San Antonio experience this type of traffic and know how to treat those in need, especially our siblings that are experiencing asylum.
All happening in a city that's become a migration hub in America. Maya Rodriguez, Scripps News, San Antonio.
And still to come on Scripps News Live, a man who once had access to some of this country's most sensitive data, now accused of accepting secret cash payments. Coming up after the break, national security correspondent Sasha Ingber reports on how the arrest of a former agent has shaken the top ranks of the FBI. Plus, Russia launching a series of blistering new attacks on Ukraine, one day after the U.S. and Germany pledged to send tanks to the front lines. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Caleb, and this is my story. I was born with osteogenesis imperfecta, or brittle bone disease. I have broken my bones almost 200 times, and I have had 11 surgeries. But I didn't let that stop me. I love to bike ride, climb, race, and I'm learning how to stand and walk. Well, I can only do all of this because of generous people like you and Shriners Hospitals for Children.
Because of people like you, Shriners Hospitals for Children has helped more than 1.3 million kids just like me, regardless of their family's ability to pay.
Shriners Hospitals for Children is only able to provide this world-class, life-changing medical care because of the generous gifts of people just like you.
Because of you, I can ride my bike. I can play basketball.
Because of people like you, I can run.
I can smile.
Will you send your love to the rescue today?
When you go to loveshriners.org right now and give just 63 cents a day, you're helping kids just like me.
Like me. Like me.
When you give today, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you and a reminder of the love you gave to a kid just like me.
Your gift, no matter how small, can help a child today.
This is your moment to make a difference.
When you pick up your phone, I know you have it right there. And call to give. You're helping kids like me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, please call again or give right away at loveshriners.org.
Your gift makes a difference. Thank you for giving.
When what's happening in the world hits home.
What strikes me is how many children are here.
And when reporting the news matters the most. Scripps News reports. Tonight at 8, 7 Central. Only on Scripps News.
Hey there, welcome back to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Cruz. It's 5:30. We're following a series of new developments right now from the front lines in Ukraine. Russia has launched a new wave of attacks. It comes one day after the West promised tanks to Ukraine. Today's attacks killed at least one person in Kyiv. Ukrainian officials say Russia has fired 55 missiles, but Ukraine has intercepted 47 of those. Russia hitting some of Ukraine's energy facilities, resulting in emergency power outages. In the meantime, Russia is calling the delivery of Western tanks to Ukraine, quote, a direct involvement in its invasion. A Kremlin spokesperson telling reporters that Russia disagrees with the West's stance that a weapons delivery doesn't count as involvement. President Biden says new shipments of tanks pose, quote, no offensive threat to Russia. Instead, they will help Ukraine maneuver on the battlefield. German tanks will arrive in Ukraine more quickly than American tanks. According to the German defense minister, officials plan to deliver 14 Leopard 2 tanks by the end of March. The U.S. is planning to send 31 of its M1 Abrams tanks, but U.S. officials say it's going to take many months to deliver the weaponry due to their complexity. The Pentagon developing a program to train Ukrainians to operate this equipment properly. I want to get you now to some new allegations shaking the top ranks of the FBI. A man who was once in charge of counterintelligence for the agency's New York office now facing corruption charges. Charles McGonigal is accused of taking secret cash payments and working with a Russian oligarch after leaving the agency. Scripps News national security correspondent Sasha Ingber sat down with one of McGonigal's former colleagues who says that his arrest could have a ripple effect.
Tracy Walder, a former CIA officer and FBI special agent, is no stranger to problematic colleagues.
When I first started at the Bureau, I actually replaced the agent who was having an affair, basically, with his female asset, Chinese asset.
Walder spoke with Scripps News about what could be one of the worst cases of an FBI official undermining the Bureau. It's someone who oversaw her counterintelligence work on China, Charles McGonigal. He went on to become the special agent in charge of counterintelligence in the FBI's New York field office until retiring in 2018. In twin indictments unsealed in New York and Washington this week, federal prosecutors accuse the 54-year-old of concealing relationships with foreigners and secretly profiting from his work.
My response to Charlie McGonigal being charged was shock, anger, and then worry.
The U.S. government says while still in the FBI, McGonigal allegedly worked with a former Albanian intelligence officer and an Albanian employed by a Chinese energy conglomerate. And he had an ongoing relationship with Albania's prime minister and got the FBI to investigate a U.S. citizen lobbying against the prime minister's political party. Federal prosecutors also say that after he retired, McGonigal allegedly worked on behalf of sanctioned Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska, despite having investigated him at the FBI, meeting the aluminum tycoon abroad and investigating a rival oligarch.
How deep do you believe that Russia's infiltration of the U.S. intelligence community goes?
I believe that Russia's infiltration into the intelligence community goes extremely deep. I also feel the same way about China and some other foreign intelligence organizations.
Walder says she's surprised that agencies continue to struggle to prevent foreign recruitment, even with new tactics. But back in 2004, she didn't see any red flags in McGonigal.
I think at the time, nothing really stood out to me as, this is a person who's being bought basically by Russian oligarchs. None of that stood out to me. Was he a kind person? No. Was he difficult? Yes. But that didn't stand out to me as unusual per se.
She says China wasn't a major U.S. priority in the early 2000s when McGonigal was the director of the Asia Near East Counterintelligence Division, and that he didn't appear invested in what the FBI was doing.
I think he viewed it as this is something I have to do to move on to the next step within the FBI.
But he ended up overseeing an investigation into whether a mole was behind a devastating string of incidents in which CIA informants were jailed or killed in China.
Charlie worked one of the largest and most sensitive counterintelligence cases really that the CIA had. So in about 2010, the CIA noticed that some of their human assets in China were either disappearing, being killed, drying up, and they suspected that there was a mole within their agency. And so they called in the FBI to conduct that investigation. And that went on for about 2 years. And the person that they found was a CIA employee named Jerry Lee. He was giving the Chinese government the names of CIA's sources in China, and Charlie was the person tasked with finding him.
Walder says a damage assessment, a classified review of McGonigal's lengthy career, could take months or even years. It could potentially put the conviction of former CIA officer Jerry Lee in jeopardy. Lee was found guilty in 2019 of conspiring to spy for China. Walder has the same concern for other cases McGonigal was involved in, including an early case of Chinese operatives stealing U.S. secrets, like cloaking technology for nuclear submarines. And then there was McGonigal's contribution to Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian interference during the 2016 election. Walder fears that names of U.S. spies and sources overseas could also be in jeopardy. Now, McGonigal faces a total of 13 counts among those 2 indictments, and they range from falsifying documents and lying to law enforcement to evading sanctions and money laundering. These are all allegations that he has denied through a lawyer, and that lawyer has not responded to numerous requests for comment.
All right, Sasha, thank you for that. So to come on Scripps News Live, civil rights attorney Ben Crump threatening a lawsuit against Florida over its plan to drop an AP class on African American studies.
I can't believe that this is 2023 and America is talking about censoring education. This is America, not a communist nation.
The action Crump is now demanding from state leadership, plus senators on both sides of the aisle accusing the Biden administration of blocking access to classified documents discovered at his private home and office. We'll have the details for you next.
This is what it feels like to file with TaxSlayer. Confident you'll get your guaranteed maximum refund.
I'm the refund boss. All your refunds belong to me.
Nope, not today.
File tax mallet.
Start for free and get your guaranteed maximum refund.
Hi, I'm Ed Harris, proud supporter of DAV, Disabled American Veterans. If this year has shown us anything, it's how important it is that we take care of one another. It has been especially challenging for our disabled veterans who are in need of critical health care and benefits.
By joining the military during a very active period of war, I absolutely went into it with the idea that I could die. Both my legs were amputated due to an IED that I sustained while I was deployed to Iraq. I mean, I'm still here, so there must be something more.
There's never been a greater time to show your support for our nation's greatest heroes.
There were moments of frustration where you can't do this anymore, you can't go here anymore. I absolutely felt like I lost some of my purpose.
100 years, our heroes on the battlefield who gave and lost so much have been able to count on DAV because of our donor heroes who give every month. Even though our history is long, the future is uncertain. We need a new generation of donors to stand with our veterans who will need us tomorrow. Please join Disabled American Veterans today and make sure disabled veterans get the benefits they've earned for generations to come. Just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, helps disabled veterans get the support and services they urgently need right now. Get this patriotic DAV blanket when you call and give just $19 a month as a reminder of the sacrifice our nation's greatest heroes have made for you. There are so many more disabled veterans and their families who still need your support. Please join me in making sure this vital support never stops by calling now or donating at helpdav.org. Thank you, and God bless you.
Municipal bonds don't usually get the media coverage the stock market does. In fact, most people don't find them all that exciting. But if you're looking for the potential for consistent income that's federally tax-free, now is an excellent time to consider municipal bonds from Henyon & Walsh. If you have at least $10,000 to invest, call and talk with one of our bond specialists at 1-800-465-8465. We'll send you our exclusive bond guide, free, with details about how bonds can be an important part of your portfolio. Henyon & Walsh has specialized in fixed income and growth solutions for 30 years and offers high-quality municipal bonds from across the country. They provide the potential for regular income, are federally tax-free, and have historically low risk. Call today to request your free bond guide. 1-800-465-8465. That's 1-800-465-8465.
I'm a performing artist, so a healthy diet is one of the most important things. I also feel the same way about my dog. We were feeding her dry, triangle-shaped ingredients long as the yellow brick road. We didn't know how bad it was for her until we actually got the good food. We got her farmer's dog sent in the mail. It's all fresh. When she started eating healthier, she started being more active and smiling more, running more, playing more. I want my dog to have a healthy and long life. The farmer's dog really helps that out.
See the benefits of fresh food at betterforthem.com.
Welcome back. Republican and Democratic senators accusing the Biden administration of blocking their efforts to classify documents found at the president's private home. It's going to top a look at more stories that we're following right now, including a judge ordering the release of surveillance footage on the attack on Paul Pelosi. Also, Meta restoring former President Trump's access to Facebook and Instagram. Let's begin right here in Washington with a bipartisan frustration happening on Capitol Hill. Senators demanding to see classified documents recovered from President Biden, former President Trump, and former Vice President Pence. Senate Intelligence Committee members want to know if any intelligence was compromised. If the Biden administration doesn't provide access, senators threaten to block quick consideration of some of Biden's nominees. Now to California, the public will have access to police body camera and home surveillance footage of the attack on Paul Pelosi. A state court ruling in favor of releasing the footage and audio calls. It is still unclear when authorities would disclose this new material. Several news organizations have filed a motion for its release. A lawyer for the man accused in the attack argued against the move, saying it would make it difficult for his client to have a fair trial. Meta is about to end former President Trump's 2-year suspension on Facebook and Instagram. The company announcing it will reinstate his accounts in the coming weeks. Meta suspended his accounts following his post surrounding the January 6th attack on the Capitol. The company says it added new safeguards to make sure there are no repeat offenders who violate the rules. Now to Florida, where a high-profile civil rights attorney is promising Governor Ron DeSantis a fight over the state's decision to block AP courses on African American studies. Attorney Ben Crump held a news conference in the state's capital yesterday. He says he'll file suit on behalf of 3 student plaintiffs if the state sticks to its decision to drop the class. Forrest Saunders has the details from Tallahassee.
Fury? Because united, we stand.
and frustration from lawmakers and civil rights activists cramming into the Capitol Wednesday.
What time is it? Time out for hypocrisy.
Here because they believe Florida is trying to whitewash Black history.
You are the governor. You are not my king. And we will teach AP African American.
That course, the source of controversy, the state seeking to ban it in its current form, citing at least 6 alleged violations of Florida's Stop Woke Act, a new law preventing the teaching of concepts like critical race theory and white privilege.
We're here to give notice to Governor DeSantis.
Famed civil rights attorney Ben Crump said his legal team and 3 AP student plaintiffs will file a federal lawsuit. That's if the AP lesson remains blocked from state schools, citing First Amendment concerns.
I can't believe that this is 2023 and America is talking about censoring education. This is America, not a communist nation.
The filing is contingent on whether the state and college board can reach an agreement on the course. It sounds possible after the nonprofit said Tuesday the lesson is only a pilot and its official framework is coming next week.
If they're able to reconcile their competing interests to put this into the classrooms in Florida, I don't have anything to sue over.
GOP legal experts, meanwhile, note that the state already requires teaching African American history and say the governor and ed department are on solid legal footing. Attorney Trudy Smith called the threat premature.
It's almost like putting the cart before the horse. It's advocating to punish something that we don't even know is going to be an offense in the future.
And Florida's Department of Education went further in a statement saying, quote, "This threat is nothing more than a meritless publicity stunt."
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, Congressman George Santos' attempt to clear up confusion about how he paid for his political campaign backfires.
I'm not aware of that answer, and we'll have an answer for the press regarding the amendment from yesterday.
We're going to explain new questions being raised by his latest filings for campaign finance. That's next.
Newsy is now Scripps News.
And now, an investigation you'll only see here on Scripps News.
Shining a light on local, national, and worldwide news.
I'm Jason Bellini in Ukraine, reporting for Scripps News.
And still available free to everyone, everywhere.
Real stories and the issues you might want to hear.
Because understanding the story is what really matters.
Newsy is now Scripps News. Go to scripsnews.com now to find out more.
This year, Americans will spend $41 billion on auto repairs.
That's right, billions with a B. Why is that number so high? Because cars break down. Your vehicle is going to end up in a shop like this too, and if it's no longer under warranty, you're the one who has to pay the bill, and it could cost you thousands of dollars. That is, unless you call CarShield. With a plan through CarShield, administrators will pay for those costly repairs directly to the mechanic of your choice, including dealerships. That means you get protection on major parts and systems like the engine, transmission, electrical systems, and more. Plus, 24/7 emergency services for flat or damaged tires, lockouts, dead batteries, and towing at no additional cost. And there are even rental car options to keep you on the road.
An unexpected car repair can wreak havoc in somebody's house when they don't have the money. Nobody should have to decide whether they should put food on the table or pay for a car repair. If you're driving an out-of-warranty car, it's not a matter of if it'll break down, it's when. So you need to call CarShield before it does. It's nice to find a company like CarShield that actually cares about their customers.
CarShield has a rich history of dependability, reliability, and success, and has been featured on leading networks like ABC, CNN, Fox News, and more. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company.
My mom told me to call CarShield, and I saved $5,000. You should always listen to your mom.
As soon as my car broke down, CarShield jumped into action, and I had my car back within days.
I've been with CarShield for close to 7 years. I have 3 vehicles covered, and I saved close to $9,000.
I called CarShield and saved over $5,000.
Yes, CarShield is a good value. Every plan through CarShield comes with a price lock guarantee, which means no matter how many repairs you need, the price you pay today will never change for as long as you cover your car.
Call now and save money with your price lock guarantee. It's not a matter of if your car will break down, but when. Call CarShield now before it's too late. Call 800-287-5264. 800-287-5264.
Attention parents of children diagnosed with cerebral palsy, Erb's palsy, or another birth injury. If you suspect that a medical mistake may have occurred at or near the time of birth, your child may have important legal rights. Call Science and Kirk for a free case evaluation. Cerebral palsy is a permanent disability that may be the result of brain damage suffered during pregnancy, delivery, or shortly after birth. A failure to follow the proper standard of care may be the cause of your child's injury. A lifetime of medical care can cost millions of dollars. Protect your family and find out whether financial compensation may be available. Cases are also being investigated for children diagnosed with Erb's palsy, also known as shoulder dystocia or brachial plexus injury. If you suspected your child's disability could have been prevented, don't wait. Get a free case evaluation.
Call 1-800-596-2340. That's 1-800-596-2340.
The why is where curiosity is intentional. Because when you ask the why behind the news, the world opens up before your eyes. The Why, tonight at 10, 9 Central, only on Scripps News.
All right, to say freshman Congressman George Santos is embattled is a bit of an understatement these days. At this point, the New York Republican is under siege. A series of reports have poked holes in his claims about his education, his religion, even his potential past as a drag queen. But it is the questions surrounding his money that could land him in real hot water, namely the money that he used to pay for his campaign. Santos filed updated campaign finance documents yesterday after admitting that he didn't use $600,000 of his own money to pay for his campaign like he had previously claimed. Presumably, Santos believed those new documents would clear up questions about his paper trail, but there's just one problem. The veteran campaign finance treasurer listed on those documents says that he doesn't work for Santos and never gave his consent to have his signature appear on the papers. Thomas Datweiler's attorney released a statement saying that he turned down the Santos campaign's request to work with him on the filings and doesn't know why his signature ended up on those papers anyway. Now, Santos, who has brushed off questions about his lies and calls to resign, told reporters yesterday that he, quote, doesn't touch his campaign finance reports.
Sir, I don't know. Let's make it very clear. I don't amend anything. I don't touch any of my FTC stuff. Right? So don't be disingenuous and report that I did, because you know that every campaign hires fiduciaries. So I'm not aware of that answer, and we'll have an answer for the press regarding the amendment from yesterday.
He's currently under criminal investigation on both federal and local levels in Nassau County, New York. Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy says he will remove Santos from his committee assignments if and only if he is found to have broken the law. So with so many headlines emerging about Congressman Santos since he won his district's race, it's hard to believe that none of these reports came out before Election Day. But it actually turns out that they did. As part of our coverage for Scripps News Literacy Week, political director Andrew Rafferty explains what the Santos saga tells us about the importance of local media when it comes to national politics.
The midterm elections had been over for more than 5 weeks when troubling questions about incoming member George Santos's past first caught the nation's attention.
Calls for Republican lawmaker George Santos' resignation getting louder, now coming from inside the House.
So how did something so major in a race that helped give Republicans the majority in the House of Representatives go unnoticed? Experts say the answer goes beyond just shrinking local newsrooms. It's also the inability for smaller publications to get noticed when they do important work.
It's not great that Newsday and New York Times didn't have their own investigative reporters, but okay, a community newspaper did. Why didn't that blow up and get followed up by everyone? And it didn't.
The North Shore Leader, a small newspaper in Long Island, did report on some of the discrepancies surrounding Santos's finances ahead of last November's election. It just didn't get any steam. The paper does not have a Twitter account, and the rest of its social media is rarely updated.
It just shows how sickly the kind of underlying local news system that it couldn't even get to that. Even the larger places are not paying attention to what the smaller places are doing. And also that most of the smaller places aren't doing much.
Another trend Santos' election put on display, the growing nationalization of politics, where voters have trouble getting information about races outside of presidential contests or Senate elections.
Voters care about congressional candidates
They also don't have a lot of sources of information about their specific congressional candidates.
Voters in Santos's New York district probably didn't find it odd not knowing much about him. And because of reasons like that, the individual candidate can be less important than the party that comes after his or her name.
One of the downsides to a nationalized politics is that races for governor, races for mayor, wind up looking like the next iteration of Trump versus Biden. And we might miss the opportunity to discuss issues or to divide along issues that pertain locally but aren't as important nationally.
The problem for local news advocates like Waldman, whose group is advocating for public policy solutions to help protect newsrooms across the country, is that it is national media that is often filling the news void. And that can mean more ideologically driven content that focuses more on what's happening in Washington than in local communities.
I just think we should all have a real sense of urgency about the severity of the collapse of local news and the need to turn this around really quickly. And there's going to be fewer and fewer reporters really just covering things that are of interest or importance to a community.
Andrew Rafferty, Scripps News, Washington.
And be sure to join us tomorrow as we continue our annual News Literacy Week. We're going to be focusing on trust in news media and how we can all do better. Tomorrow, we'll have a special presentation anchored by our own Del Walters. We're going to take a look at the importance of a trustworthy press and why that trust is still near an all-time low. It's going to take place tomorrow night at 9 p.m., 8 Central, right here on Scripps News. All right, it is a very busy news day, and we're following every new development for you right now. At 2:45 p.m. Eastern, President Biden will be delivering a major speech on the economy. Then at 3 p.m., Shelby County DA Steve Mulroy will hold a news conference on the police-involved death of a Memphis man, Tyree Nichols. We're going to bring you both events as they happen later this afternoon. In the meantime, I'll have a live report from Washington on this morning's promising new report on the GDP. That's going to take place in your next hour of Scripps News Live. We're back after this.
Hey, Caleb, what's going on?
Homework. I'm supposed to learn how to cook a soufflé.
Ooh, French. Impressive.
Oui, vous devriez l'apprendre. Ça vous fait paraître plus intelligent.
I have no clue what you're saying.
Yeah, I said that you should learn French because it makes you sound smart.
I got you.
You know what else is smart, Alec? Donating to Shriners Hospitals for Children.
I thought you'd say that. And you know what? You're right.
Just think what it would be like if people didn't support Shriners Hospitals for Children every month.
I don't even want to think about it. I know so many kids whose lives are completely different because of the specialized care Shriners Hospitals for Children provides.
Yeah, like Sebastian, who can stand now.
Yeah, and the best part is it's so easy to become a monthly supporter. All you need to do is call the number on your screen or go to loveshriners.org. Your support will make sure our amazing doctors and nurses keep helping kids like us who need them now and in the future.
Hey, Alec, do you think I could try this part?
Go for it, buddy.
When you call right now and give $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we'll send you your very own Loved at the Rescue blanket as a reminder of all the kids you're helping every day.
Your monthly support makes a huge difference for kids like us.
So please, call now or go to loveshriners.org to give. On behalf of all the kids you're helping, Alec and I just want to say thank you.
You got that right. Thank you so much. Please call the number on your screen or go to loveshriners.org with your monthly support right away. Your support shows you care too.
Hey there, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Veronica Cruz. Welcome back to Scripps News Live. Our top story this hour, the economy. New numbers show that the economy is still strong. It grew nearly 3% from October to December. A robust job market, lower inflation, both helping the U.S. end the year on a high note. Let's get you right over to economics correspondent Bianca Ficini, who's been tracking this all from Washington. All right, Bianca, walk us through the numbers in today's report. What were economists expecting here?
Hey, Veronica. So this report came in better than expected, showing GDP growing at 2.9% when most economists were expecting to see somewhere between 2.6 to 2.7%. Now, I do want to point out the growth in the fourth quarter of the year was a little slower than what we saw in the third quarter of the year, but not by much. And the fact that it came in higher than expectations has been received pretty warmly on Wall Street and beyond. And there are two specific things about this report that I want to point out. The first being the personal savings rate, which was at 2.9% in the fourth quarter of the year. That's up from 2.7% in the third quarter. The second factor is real disposable personal income, which increased 3.3% in the fourth quarter of the year, compared to just 1% in the third quarter of the year. So these two factors could be why we saw consumer spending go up in the fourth quarter of the year. So overall, pretty decent report. Does sort of put into question some of those concerns that have been swirling about the potential of a recession happening sometime in 2023, especially when you consider the labor market is still pretty strong and we know that inflation is falling. But of course, this is just one of many economic data reports that we're going to get. In fact, tomorrow we're going to get another one, tomorrow on inflation, when the latest PCE report comes out at 8:30. And that is expected to show that the rate of inflation fell and was actually at the lowest level for all of 2022 by the end of the year. So that is the last inflation report Fed officials are going to get their hands on before they meet next week. They are expected to announce another interest rate hike, but it's likely to be lower than what we saw for most of 2022, somewhere between the 25 to 50 basis point range. So we're still in for more interest rate hikes, but it does suggest, when you look at reports like this, that we could continue to see those rates start to cool and eventually taper out throughout the rest of the year, Veronica.
Right, because I think the definition of a recession is when you have two consecutive quarters in which you see the economy contract rather than expand. So I'm still waiting to see that quarter when the economy finally is in the negative, but you know, fingers crossed. We've got a little bit of good news here. Bianca Ficini live in Washington. Bianca, thank you. So President Biden is set to deliver a major speech on the economy. It's going to take place at 2:45 p.m. Eastern, and he's expected to focus on this morning's strong economic report. He's also expected to take House Republicans to task over their recent economic proposals. White House correspondent Haley Bull live for us right now in Washington. We find her just outside of the White House. So Haley, the president is headed to Virginia with yet another better than expected economic report. What can we expect to hear from him today?
Hey, good afternoon, Veronica. He's certainly going into this speech with this good news for the White House, with this economic report. And this is going to be his first major economic speech this year that could really set the tone for the next couple years as the White House deals with the divided Congress. Now, he is expected to tout economic progress, highlighting his plan and administration's actions, specifically recent legislation passed over the last year, while criticizing Republicans' economic plan as a threat to progress. Now, the timing of this is very important. It comes amid a clash between the White House and House Republicans over the debt limit. House Republicans want spending cuts in order to raise it and have recently proposed a national sales tax in place of the more traditional income tax. Now, a White House official says the president will outline what they call House Republicans' quote, MAGA economic plan, alleging it will cost Americans more money. A White House official says he'll talk about recent legislation, his vision to grow the economy, as well as announce a new Invest in America cabinet that will be focused on his economic plan and progress. And what you've really seen the administration do is focus on job creation, specifically with manufacturing, job growth rates, and unemployment rates. rates. Now, officials here at the White House have also recently touted what they described as falling inflation rates the last several months, despite the challenges with inflation the Biden presidency has faced and the criticism from Republicans he has faced over that. The administration has largely framed that as a global problem, while it's an issue that Republicans have really honed in on. But we expect to hear him highlight his economic vision to grow the economy bottom up, middle out, and continue what we have seen are the criticisms of Republicans' economic plan in this speech later this afternoon, Veronica.
All right, Haley Bull reporting live for us from the White House. Haley, always great to see you. Thank you so much. So cooling inflation is one major factor that played into this morning's strong GDP. Prices for things like clothing, electronics are all going down. But there's one very important category that remains red hot right now: food prices. And those continue to rise. Prices for grains like cereal, baked goods, they're up 16.1% from last year. But egg prices are blowing those numbers right out of the water. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they are up 138% from year to year.
The hens are not charging more for the eggs. Who's charging for the increase?
So across the country right now, people are wondering what exactly is driving up the cost of eggs. It's pushing the price for the most important meal of the day, breakfast, right? So inflation and supply chain issues have caused the price of breakfast to jump. National correspondent Maura Siriani is at the Silver Skillet restaurant in Atlanta. She has more now on how people in the industry have been coping with all of this. Maura?
Yeah, I think we've all noticed the rising cost of going out to eat. Well, here at the Silver Skillet restaurant in Atlanta, the owner tells me passing off that additional cost to the customer is a last resort.
Well, I try to keep my costs customer friendly. We just are a diner. We're not nighttime and alcohol and that, but you can only pay so much for breakfast.
And since we're at a diner, let's talk about the average cost of breakfast, brunch, and lunch to the consumer. Staple items from chicken to bacon, sausage and eggs, even butter have gone up significantly over the past couple years, with a steep increase just over the past several months alone. According to the latest data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, for a meal including eggs, bacon, OJ, and coffee, you're paying an average of about $6 more as of December 2022 compared to the same time 2 years ago. Victor Cortez, kitchen manager here at the Silver Skillet, says it's normal for costs to rise every few years, but says he's never seen it this bad.
It's hurting businesses, it's hurting everybody. It's you go to the grocery store and the eggs are $9 a dozen. Who can afford? Well, you still have to buy them sometimes, but it's getting bad.
Cortez orders food for the diner and says for 7 or 8 cases of eggs, they're paying about $1,300. Just a few years ago, that cost was just a couple hundred. And just like many other businesses and restaurants across the nation, here at the Silver Skillet, the owner tells me she's had to cut costs in other areas. Maybe that means printing new menus just to make up for the escalating cost of inflation. In Atlanta, Maura Siriani, Scripps News.
And still to come on Scripps News Live, the Memphis police chief speaking out on the death of Tyree Nichols.
This incident was heinous, reckless, and inhumane.
Her plea to the city as residents wait for the release of the video showing the violent arrest. Plus, a Virginia superintendent out of a job 2 weeks after police say a 6-year-old shot his teacher. Why board members say the decision is best for the future of the school district. We'll have that story next.
Here's TV shark Robert Herjavec for CarShield.
I love cars, and I also love great deals. That's why I'm such a fan of CarShield. They have an amazing deal that helps protect you from the sky-high cost of big auto repairs.
The check engine light on your vehicle can come on at any time. If your car is out of warranty, an engine replacement can cost over $5,000. A new transmission, over $4,000. Even a new air conditioner can run over $1,500.
If you suddenly had to pay those costs, it could really hurt your bottom line.
CarShield administrators have paid for my claims over $5,000. Now, who does that? CarShield, you're the best. A plan that works.
When your car or truck breaks down, you simply take it to the certified repair shop or dealer of your choice. CarShield administrators take care of the rest.
And CarShield gives you VIP treatment.
Plans through CarShield include 24-hour roadside assistance, courtesy towing, and rental car options when your vehicle is being repaired.
I did my due diligence. CarShield is a deal that is just too good to pass up. In fact, CarShield is America's #1 auto protection company.
CarShield administrators have paid out over $1 billion in claims and have protected millions of vehicles. Call now for a free quote.
It's only a matter of time until your vehicle is going to need a repair. Save big with CarShield.
Call now for an instant free quote. CarShield offers month-to-month plans for every budget. There are no long-term contracts. CarShield has coverage for vehicles with 5,000 to 150,000 miles. CarShield experts are standing by now. The sooner you call, the sooner you can drive with peace of mind.
Coverage through CarShield is a deal that is just too good to pass up. If you want to save a lot of money on future auto repair bills, I recommend you call CarShield now.
Call 1-800-680-9870 or go to carshield.com. That's 1-800-680-9870. Call now.
Scripps News proudly presents a 2-week special. One man.
This is it. 2 minutes till the start.
One bite.
Whatever is going on, you just deal with. Ride the route that's in front of you.
And 18,000 miles. Enduring the toughest conditions to face the ultimate challenge. Around the world in 80 days. Sunday night at 9/8 Central. On Scripps News.
Developing now, tensions growing in Memphis. Authorities are expected to release video showing the violent arrest of Tyree Nichols. The 29-year-old died 3 days after he was arrested during a traffic stop. Memphis's police chief has already asked for protests to be peaceful. She says that she expects the community will be outraged once they see this video, but says that it is not a reflection of what many Memphis officers do every day.
This is not just a professional failing. This is a failing of basic humanity toward another individual. This incident was heinous, reckless, and inhumane. I expect you to feel what the Nichols family feels. I expect you to feel outrage in the disregard of basic human rights, as our police officers have taken an oath to do the opposite of what transpired on the video.
Now, Chief Davis says the 5 black officers directly responsible were fired. She says other officers are under investigation for policy violations related to this incident. State and federal investigations are also underway. The DA is expected to hold a news conference in this case at about 3 p.m. Eastern. Stay with us right here on Scripps News for live coverage. The double murder trial of the once prominent South Carolina attorney Alex Murdaugh is now underway. He's accused of shooting his wife and son. Now, the trial began yesterday with open statements. Both sides described gruesome details about the scene and the deaths. Today, the prosecution called its first witness, one of the first officers to respond to the scene. Murdaugh was emotional, visibly crying in court during that testimony, and his body camera video was played. He has pleaded not guilty in this case and claims that he wasn't home at the time of the murders. This trial is expected to last for about 3 weeks, and you can watch full coverage on our sister network, Court TV. Now to California, and a man accused of killing 7 people at 2 farms in Half Moon Bay now charged with 7 counts of murder. A judge denying bond for the 66-year-old defendant, who is also facing 1 attempted murder charge. Prosecutors say that he wasn't a U.S. citizen, and they considered him a flight risk. He lived at the site where 4 of his victims were killed. Authorities have not yet given a motive for the attack. In the meantime, investigators say the 72-year-old gunman in the Monterey Park, California shooting didn't know the 11 people who were killed. The LA Sheriff's Department still hasn't established a motive for this attack that wounded 9 other people as well. A friend says that the gunman was once a regular at the dance studio where the attack occurred, but the sheriff says it appears that he hadn't been there in the past 5 years. Vice President Kamala Harris meeting with the families of Monterey Park victims yesterday. She placed a bouquet of yellow lilies and white roses at the memorial site outside of the dance studio. The vice president kept her remarks brief, urging Congress to pass meaningful gun reform. She urged lawmakers to have the courage to do the right thing.
Can they do something? Yes. Should they do something? Yes. Will they do something? That is where we all must speak up. and speak to our elected representatives about what we have a right to expect that they will do.
Democratic senators have introduced a bill to ban military-style assault weapons with high-capacity magazines, but Republican opposition would likely prevent it from passing in the House. And now to Virginia. The Newport News School Board has fired Superintendent George Parker III. The decision coming hours after a first-grade teacher who police say was shot by a first grader announced her intention to sue the school board. Kelsey Jones was there for us for the superintendent vote. She has this reaction.
Mr. Brown.
4.
Ms. Searles Law.
4.
The motion carries 5-1.
A heated school board meeting leading to a 5-1 vote to remove Superintendent Dr. George Parker, who has been in this role since 2018.
Mr. Hunter.
Against.
Board member Gary Hunter, the only one to vote against Parker's removal.
There are other ways at this time that we could have done this in a much different way.
Yet board chair Lisa Searles Law says this decision was made because of the culture and climate of the school district at this time. Parker has been in the hot seat by parents and teachers following the terrible shooting at Rich Neck, along with other gun violence incidents we've seen in 2021, one at Heritage High School and another at Minchville. And here in this separation and severance agreement, Parker will get 2 years of his salary paid over 12 months, a payout of just over $500,000.
Out of tragedy, it comes opportunity for growth, for change, and for miraculous to happen.
Leaving the school board to appoint Dr. Michelle Mitchell as an interim superintendent, the executive director of student advancement, also with a 5-1 vote. Board member Rebecca Amon was the only one to vote against her.
I feel that confidence can be regained within our Newport News School Board if they start protecting the parents and speaking up for the parents and not just the buddy system that currently exists.
Rebecca Amon says, quote, although external interim would have been my preference, I will support Michelle Mitchell and want her in the division to succeed.
Our students are important. Discipline is important and needed. And, people who are going to, stand up for what's right rather than what's accepted are very much needed.
And that was Kelsey Jones reporting for us there out of Newport News, Virginia. Superintendent Parker's termination goes into effect on February 1st. The board says they have roughly 180 days to find his replacement. Still ahead on Scripps News Live, the ongoing stress of finding baby formula. We're going to show you how one Florida man is stepping up to help mothers in need. Also, the Great Resignation. As millions of Americans choose to leave their careers, economists say that could be contributing to inflation. We'll explain why next.
I'll never forget that day.
It happened so fast.
It was over before it started.
In the blink.
Blink of an eye.
The lives of our veterans have been changed forever in the blink of an eye. They need our support more than ever. Now you can show your support in the blink of an eye with a click of a button or a simple phone call. Please call the number on your screen right now and give your monthly support of only $19. Your call today will help change the lives of our veterans.
Because of patriotic Americans just like you.
My life and the lives of other veterans like me will be changed.
In the blink of an eye.
You can show our disabled veterans your support by going to helpdav.org right now and give just $19 a month. When you do, we'll send you this DAV blanket as a thank you and as a reminder that you support those who served.
I will never stop showing gratitude for their sacrifices.
I will do what I can to help my veterans now in their time of need.
I support those who served for me.
Together, we are keeping our promise to America's veterans.
My life.
My life.
My life was changed forever.
Your call means more than you can imagine to a veteran who has proudly served us and our country.
When you donate to DAV, you're helping disabled veterans. Thank you, and God bless you.
Please call or go online to helpdav.org right now. Your support in this moment honors our veterans' service and shows your commitment to them today and into the future.
This is an important message for everyone on Medicare. Today, we are talking about Medicare Part C, commonly called Medicare Advantage. If you don't have a Medicare Part C plan, call now because there may be plans with additional benefits available that are simply not covered under Medicare Parts A and B. That's right, there are people on Medicare but don't have a Medicare Part C plan, which covers everything in Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits in Medicare Part C. Here's the good news. If you're on Medicare, you can call even if you called last year. We will check to see if there is a Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. If you're losing coverage, moving, or new to Medicare, call to speak with a licensed insurance agent during the special enrollment period. You don't get Medicare Part C benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2023 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Just call 800-785-8498. 800-785-8498. This is an important message for everyone on Medicare. Today, we are talking about Medicare Part C, commonly called Medicare Advantage. If you don't have a Medicare Part C plan, call now because there may be plans with additional benefits available that are simply not covered under Medicare Parts A and B. That's right, there are people on Medicare but don't have a Medicare Part C plan, which covers everything in Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits in Medicare Part C. Here's the good news. If you're on Medicare, you can call even if you called last year. We will check to see if there is a Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. If you're losing coverage, moving, or new to Medicare, call to speak with a licensed insurance agent during the special enrollment period. You don't get Medicare Part C benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2023 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Just call 800-785-8498. 800-785-8498.
20 minutes after the hour now, a shakeup at the FDA as one of its top officials steps down. Frank Giannis had served as the Deputy Commissioner for Food Policy and Response since 2018. He says that he is concerned about the FDA's oversight structure as it relates to the baby formula shortage. He claims the current structure impaired the agency's ability to protect the public. He called for the appointment of his replacement to, quote, be fully empowered and experienced. And next month marks 1 year since the start of the formula shortage. Supplies are up since the peak, but in some parts of the country, parents are still struggling to feed their children. Tori Dunnan introduces us to a Florida man who is helping mothers in his own community.
We're coming up on a year now, and parents are still searching. A year since the nationwide baby formula shortage started back in February of 2022. And it appears it's not over quite yet. There's a sense of exhaustion that comes with hearing about it.
It's frustrating. I could just go back to how it used to be, basically.
And talking about it.
It's still an issue, unfortunately. That's for you.
But when parents find it, the frustration fades, if only temporarily.
These two.
These two? Yep, there you go. You can take that. That's for you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
These moments tell the story of the nationwide baby formula shortage that is still ongoing.
I had the ease of going to get whatever I want on the shelf. The moms today don't have that. So I feel sorry for them.
David Brown,
the formula come in and it comes and it goes.
The owner of a secondhand clothing store for kids, is still doing his part to help.
We don't post what we have online. It's more word of mouth.
Serving as a free formula exchange site of sorts for the better part of the year.
We also are having people coming in from Belle Glade, from areas, other parts of the county to come pick up formula from us. It's not anything that I know. It's getting better out there right now.
What it lacks in quantity, it makes up for in empathy.
It's huge. Just that little bit right there is going to help out a mom tremendously.
Tori Dunnan for Scripps News.
United Airlines says it's taking significant steps to avoid the service issues seen across the industry in recent months. CEO Scott Kirby says United is using more resources and tackling worker shortages to keep the airline running smoothly. He says post-COVID travel issues have left airlines strained across the board, from security and FAA staffing to pilot shortages. Scott says airlines need to have backup plans in order to prevent future service issues.
You can't run an airline like it's 2019, and the reason is because the system is stressed to the max.
Kirby says post-COVID travel habits have also impacted the industry across the board, particularly business travel. He says many companies have scaled back their travel budgets to help fight inflation and recession worries. In the meantime, IBM says it's cutting 3,900 jobs as it joins a group of other tech giants dealing with a slowdown in the industry. IBM says it's slashing 1.5% of its global workforce. The company says the cuts are related to the spin-off and sale of two of its business units. The move will cost IBM about $300 million. IBM is joining Facebook parent company Meta, which laid off 11,000 employees in November. Amazon eliminated more than 18,000 positions. Google is cutting 12,000 employees. Now we have this just in to Scripps News Live. 5 Memphis police officers now face murder charges in connection with the death of Tyree Nichols, as well as other offenses. The 29-year-old died 3 days after a traffic stop in Memphis. Those 5 officers were fired. Authorities plan to release video of the arrest on Friday. The Memphis, Tennessee police chief has been pleading for calm. While layoffs are impacting thousands across the country, people are choosing to walk away from their career. It's been known as the Great Resignation, and it could be another contributing factor when it comes to inflation. National correspondent Dan Grossman has the details.
When we think about what has caused the inflation that all of us are seeing in stores, we might think about supply chain shortages, the pandemic demand, but new research is showing that the jobs we choose to take have had a profound impact on the prices we're paying in stores.
Let's get 10 more seconds right here.
For millions of Americans, the pandemic was a fight. For many,
jab, slip, jab.
A fight for their life.
Slips into your lead side and load up that jab.
But for others, like Gladys Santiago and her wife Emily, it was a fight against the monotony of everyday life.
Where I was in my career, I think both of us were just kind of grinding, like long hours.
Jab, slip, jabs, cross, duck, cross. Good.
In November 2020, Gladys quit her job in TV sales, and Emily quit her job as a corporate lawyer so they could start Worth the Fight Boxing, a fitness studio that has had a profoundly positive impact on their personal lives as its effects have rippled to the greater economy.
Keep it up, everybody.
You know, the pandemic happened, and it kind of, I don't know, gave us a new perspective. Like, you know, maybe we should just take this risk because you never know when, like, everything is going to change.
In 2021, as many as 4 million Americans quit their jobs each month looking for new opportunities. A paper by the Chicago Federal Reserve shows that job switching boosted inflation an extra percentage point as people were able to garner higher pay. But as more people took on these opportunities, productivity slowed. Companies had to spend more time and money filling positions and getting new employees up to speed. To compensate for less production, prices were pushed even higher, a side effect Gladys and Emily felt when buying equipment for their gym.
It was scary. It's a big investment, and it ended up being like a bigger investment than I guess we anticipated. And then you're worried about whether or not people can afford you because there's so much uncertainty.
I think we're on like Worth the Fight Boxing 4.0. We started at 1.0 and we had to like iterate through all these things and figure out problems.
Typically, healthy turnover can be good.
All right, let's get back on our toes, back on our feet, back in that boxer's bounce.
As it leads people to jobs most suitable for them. But the Great Resignation brought its own problems as companies would invest in new employees only to find them moving on in a few weeks.
You know, I think it has improved our relationship a lot. You know, we don't really fight too much and better communicate.
I'm just kind of in awe watching Emily, like, you know, kind of work her magic with a contract. We work so well together, too.
Good, good.
The newest inflation report shows prices are getting better. Prices in December were up 6.5% from a year prior, down from a high of 9% in July, as Americans continue to make the most of what they have.
Good job, everybody.
Dan Grossman, Scripps News, Denver.
Next on Scripps News Live, Russia unleashing a deadly response in Ukraine after the U.S. announces a major decision regarding tanks. We'll have the details after a quick break.
These are not the moments that break us, but they will be the ones that make us. And while we've already learned that we're not invincible,
we'll find that as we band together, we're strong and we will overcome. These are the moments that remind us what is truly important.
we'll continue to help our neighbors. We'll continue to look out for those in need. And together, we'll make tomorrow a place we can all be proud to call the future.
Because tomorrow
is made up of what we make of ourselves today. So today, I'm asking you to join with us in focusing on what is truly important, helping kids in need right now and into the future.
For the past 100 years, Shriners Hospitals for Children has been helping children in need because of the monthly gifts from caring people like you.
Please call the number on your screen right now.
When you do, you'll be helping all of us do amazing things.
With your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you.
And while I know not everyone can give right now, if you can give, just go online to loveshriners.org to help kids like me today.
Your monthly gift makes a difference.
You make a difference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving.
Please call or go online right now to loveshriners.org. Your call will help a child in need to have a future full of hope and possibilities. Thank you.
This is a show with range in the know. Today, we're going to talk about crypto in the now. Wild world of online real estate in the next. Weaponized robots are truly becoming a thing in our military.
In the Loop, tonight at 9, 8 Central, only on Scripps News.
Hey there, welcome back to Scripps News Live. It is about 30 minutes after the hour. Thank you so much for being with us on this Thursday. Good to see you. I'm Veronica Cruz, and here are your top stories. President Biden scheduled to deliver a major speech on the economy this afternoon. The president will be attacking Republican economic plans as threats to the country's future. That includes refusals to raise the debt ceiling and cutting taxes on corporations. Some Republicans have proposed Social Security and Medicare cuts.
Motion carries 5-1.
And with that vote, the Newport News Virginia School Board fired Superintendent Dr. George Parker III, his ouster taking effect on February 1st. The firing comes hours after Abby Zwerner announced her intention to sue the school board. She is the teacher who police say was shot by a 6-year-old student in her classroom. And we're waiting for more details right now out of Memphis, where 5 Memphis police officers are facing second-degree murder charges in connection with the death of Tyree Nichols, as well as other offenses. The 29-year-old died 3 days after a traffic stop. Those 5 officers were fired. Authorities plan to release video of the arrest on Friday, and the Memphis, Tennessee police chief has been pleading for calm. The DA is expected to hold a press conference in this case at 3 p.m. Eastern. Stay with Scripps News for live coverage. Russia launching dozens of missiles into Ukraine today, killing at least 11 people and further damaging the country's infrastructure. Hundreds of people taking cover in Kyiv's metro stations during that nationwide air alert. Ukraine is accusing Russia of targeting energy facilities, causing power outages on cold winter days. Authorities say the majority of the Russian missiles were intercepted and shot down, but still, the cost is high. Now, this latest Russian attack comes one day after the U.S. and Germany agreed to send tanks to Ukraine. Joining us now is Brett Bruin. He is the former director of global engagement in the Obama administration. He's also the president of the Global Situation Room. Brett, thank you so much for being here. Always good to see you.
Good to be with you.
So this is an about face for President Biden. Why now? Is there anything behind the timing of this, and why has he arrived at this decision?
Well, look, we're facing the start of the second year of this conflict, and I think both President Biden as well as our European allies are looking at how do we change the dynamics on the ground? How do we push Putin to the negotiating table and to get a stable, a secure agreement that will lead to the end of this conflict. The hope is that both the German tanks as well as the M1 U.S. Abrams tanks will be able to allow Ukrainian forces to push Russian troops further back. And then hopefully leaders in Moscow will make the decision that they're not gaining ground, that those losses should lead to some sort of negotiated solution.
So you're right about that, Brett. I mean, it's been, what, 2 years that we've been talking about this, and this is obviously a change up in the strategy, but could this also be seen as an act of aggression? I mean, the Kremlin is saying the U.S., Germany, its allies, sending tanks, material, equipment, that this is, quote, a direct involvement in the war. It's a direct involvement. So how concerning is that coming from the Kremlin?
We've heard this several times. In fact, at every juncture, when we were looking at sending those HIMARS missile systems, when we were looking at just providing additional military aid, and it hasn't panned out. Russia, I think, has issued a lot of idle threats. There's been a lot of saber rattling. But at the end of the day, and I was in the Situation Room back in 2014 when Putin first invaded Ukraine. And at that time, my judgment was, and it continues to be, that Putin is not going to want to escalate this situation, not going to want to have NATO and certainly the United States involved in direct confrontation. So while he will talk a good game, at the end of the day, he has not taken any steps over the last year to escalate towards the rest of Europe and the United States.
But I think the fear all along, Brett, is that something like this would up the ante, right? It would change the game and Putin would react. So are you saying that nukes are off the table?
I think what we are looking at is a surveillance mentality. Putin. He is trying to figure out, how do I emerge from this still in power in the Kremlin, and that it is not in his interest to launch an attack on NATO, to use nuclear weapons, because he knows that that would elicit a very strong response from Washington and from our European allies. He's already in a very weak position with his military, having suffered hundreds of thousands of losses of troops on the battlefield in Ukraine. Looking at a 28-member alliance with NATO, now going against his forces would be insurmountable odds, and quite frankly, it would spell the end of his time in power.
But I'm really curious about strategy here for the Russians. Why would you announce that you're launching a planned offensive in the spring?
Well, look, part of this is trying to get the Ukrainians, as well as their Western backers, to rethink their own offensives, that they have to calculate, accommodate for the possibility that the Russians may not just be defending, but may be moving on certain parts of that battle line. And so they're hoping that the Ukrainians will hold back more troops, more weapons to defend against a potential Russian attack. But at the end of the day, what's really important here, Veronica, is that we start to look at how are we bringing this conflict to a close? How are we getting closer to that negotiating table? Because the longer this drags out, the more likely here in the U.S. as well as in Europe, support will wane.
But, I mean, what does this say, though, when it comes to commitment? What does this say about the timeline? You have the United States, you have Germany, you have NATO partners, you have the allies. I mean, everybody is now committing tanks. There are 31 M1 Abrams tanks being promised by the United States, Leopard 2 tanks by Germany. What does this mean in terms of a timeline? How long will this war last?
Well, I think it is a good sign because, one, it means that our allies, particularly Germany, are starting to step up in ways that, quite frankly, we never would have expected them to before. They were always held back by a military ideology that says we don't want to provide these kinds of weapons to other countries. So I think it's an important step, and one that, quite frankly, can continue to change the reality on the battlefield. And the hope is that the more that Russian losses pile up, the more likely that Putin is going to have to, or pressure is going to be put on Putin to negotiate a solution.
So we've been talking about this war now for the past 2 years, and you and I have had several discussions in that time. 2 years ago, I asked you this question. How do you see this all playing out? I mean, how have things changed over the course of 2 years?
Well, I would say the remarkable defense that the Ukrainians have mounted was far in excess of what we could have expected a year ago. I would say at the same time, we do not have, that I have heard from the Biden administration or from Europe, a strategy, a plan. How are we going to work towards that eventual resolution of this crisis? You know, we do have these announcements, it seems like almost on a monthly basis, of new weapon systems heading over there. But what contribution are they making towards those objectives? That part hasn't been really well articulated. In addition, I think it's time in the State of the Union that Biden will be giving on February 7th is a critical moment for him to articulate what does the reconstruction of Ukraine look like, because we need to get the buy-in for that now. I served out in Tikrit in Iraq during the war there, and we didn't invest enough in the reconstruction, and as a result, I think we saw ISIS come to power in large parts of the country, as well as winning this current conflict.
Yeah, I'm sure there have been many lessons learned, you know, because of what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. Brett Bruin is the president of the Global Situation Room. Brett, always great to see you. Happy New Year. Thank you so much for stopping by.
You bet.
Coming up next, we head to a Chicago classroom where one teacher is giving her students a firsthand look at media literacy. We're going to explore how the class is encouraging students to better understand their news sources. That's next.
Hey.
You're up early.
I just had the worst dream. It was a terrible accident. If something happened to you, what would happen to me? How would I pay for funeral costs and medical expenses?
It was just a dream. But we do need to have a life insurance plan in place in case something happens, because you just don't know.
If you're over the age of 50 and looking to buy life insurance, this message is for you. Hi, I'm Kirk Kaiser, and did you know the average funeral costs around $10,000? And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Don't let that happen. Call right now. And if you're over 50, you can get up to $25,000 in affordable life insurance, and your acceptance is guaranteed.
Call 800-737-9598.
Your coverage begins as soon as your application is received. Plus, you can't be turned down for this insurance regardless of your health. Your acceptance is guaranteed. There's no paperwork, no health questions, and no medical exam, even if you have a pre-existing condition. This plan also comes with a double guarantee, guaranteed acceptance and a guaranteed rate. That's right, your acceptance is guaranteed, and your rate can never go up for any reason. Don't wait until it's too late. Don't leave your family with a huge bill for your funeral. Call right now. Get up to $25,000 in affordable life insurance. And rates start as low as $5 a week.
We should call Select Advisor. Plans are available for just pennies a day, and we can get approved immediately.
That sounds like something we can afford. I'm calling right now.
Call now and give your loved ones the protection they need for just pennies a day.
Call 800-737-9598. That's 800-737-9598.
We were all just a happy little family. And then when COVID started, it started getting harder and harder. When I first heard of COVID-19, I was kind of scared.
A lot of fear was, how are we going to pay the rent? What's going to happen with no money coming in? What are we going to do about electricity? What are we going to do about food and everything?
And then they shut down the school.
In these uncertain times, millions of children in America are wondering where their next meal will come from.
The only time they eat is at school. So when you take that food source away with a family that's already facing food insecurity, it has astronomical effects.
Whether kids are in school or out of school, No Kid Hungry is always there. With help from caring people like you, we're partnering with schools and community groups to ensure children get the meals they need to grow, thrive, and succeed. When you join with No Kid Hungry with a gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, you'll help provide healthy meals and hope to kids in schools and communities across America.
This is where those children are getting the bulk of their food, calories, and nutrition for the day, the week, the year.
Please join us today to help end child hunger in America. Call or go online right now with your gift of only $19 a month. Use your credit card and you'll receive this No Kid Hungry t-shirt to show you're a part of the team that's helping feed kids and change lives.
What we will do is make sure that no one goes hungry on our watch.
Thank you.
The need to help our nation's children is as urgent as ever. So please, call this number or go online to helpnokidhungry.org to feed hungry kids today.
It is National News Literacy Week, and Scripps News is committed to highlighting the importance of a free, trustworthy press in our democracy. Today, our focus is teaching students about the news. 3 states require some form of media literacy lessons in school, and while Gen Z is usually tech-savvy, they're still susceptible to misinformation and disinformation. National correspondent Amber Strong takes us to one school in Chicago.
Reading, writing, and real versus fake.
It was a newspaper. Was it online or offline?
At Providence Inglewood Charter School in Chicago, teacher Jamie Rue is giving students a lesson in critical thinking.
What's inside of a newspaper and how that connects to perspective on who's the author.
We're blurring the students' faces because they're minors. Rue teaches media literacy, something she says students need now more than ever.
They're taking this information and saying, oh, that's it. That's all to the story.
For Rue, those lessons include examining newspapers and even popular memes.
You had a crowd of people up top, and then you had the cameraman with at that same event about 10 steps behind. So that perspective, they didn't even see that there was a difference.
The state of Illinois mandates media literacy lessons for high schoolers. New Jersey requires lessons for K through 12. The goal is to encourage critical thinking for a tech-savvy generation.
The media, which is what we're using to get our information and to get our, satisfaction from entertainment and persuasion, needs to be analyzed, needs to be consumed in a thoughtful way.
That includes encouraging students to ask themselves a few questions about the things they consume.
The first one is, who's the author and what's the purpose of this message?
What are they saying? What are they trying to get you to do or influence you to do?
News literacy falls under a larger media literacy umbrella and encourages students to understand bias or false information in their news sources, no matter where they get their news. Ideally, the concept would be taught by different teachers across various subjects, like science or social studies.
A math class, because you would think about things such as, how do we interpret poll numbers? How do we interpret statistics? Those kind of things.
A 2021 report from Common Sense Media shows 38% of tweens have used social media. And according to a study from the British Journal of Developmental Psychology, students' belief in conspiracy theories are heightened around age 14, creating the perfect storm for some.
It exposes us to so many more voices, a lot more than we heard before. But what it's also done is it's opened the door to lots of voices who may have ill intent when they put out certain messages.
Mike Webb, VP of News Literacy Project, says students are susceptible to both mis- and disinformation like adults, particularly when it comes to social media and things like COVID-19, for example.
The football player, Damar Hamlin, who got injured, and immediately, within seconds of his injury, people were saying, oh, that was COVID.
He says there are a variety of online sources for parents and teachers to help kids be better consumers.
My favorite one is You Be the Editor, because it puts you in a scenario where there's been a car accident and you have to determine what actually happened.
Okay, so let's keep it moving. Our media mode, offline publication.
Rue says she has a sharp bunch, but even they are tripped up from time to time, and that's where the lessons come in.
Having them learn how to dig deeper, as well as supporting them in understanding it's okay to wonder.
Amber Strong, Scripps News.
Tomorrow night, join our Del Walters for a special presentation focused on the importance of a trustworthy press and why that trust is still at an all-time low. That's tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central, right here on Scripps News. And straight ahead on Scripps News Live, more couples are saying I don't when it comes to living together right after they say I do. What's driving this trend and why experts say it could be the key to a stronger marriage. Next.
Attention! Do you have Medicare? Did you know you could be adding up to $164 back into your Social Security check every month? Certain beneficiaries qualify for specific benefits based on income verification. Just call the Go Medicare Benefits Help Center at 800-687-3817. You could also qualify for a $0 premium Medicare Advantage plan that may include additional benefits like dental, including fillings, exams, dentures. Vision, including exams, frames, lenses, and even contacts. Hearing, including hearing aids, batteries. And prescription drug coverage, all at no additional premium cost. The Go Medicare Benefits Help Center is open now at 800-687-3817. Both a call and the consultation are 100% free with no obligation to enroll. Call the Go Medicare Benefits Help Center now at 800-687-3817. That's 800-687-3817.
If you're living with diabetes, this sound may save your life. A continuous glucose monitor provides glucose readings and alerts you in real time to potential lows and harmful spikes without painful finger sticks. It's easy, convenient, and proven to lower your A1C. If you administer insulin, you may qualify for a continuous glucose monitor at no cost to you. Call now. It could save your life. Just call 800-233-6176. This new GCM technology immediately eliminates your pain and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. That means no more guessing. It's easy to see your glucose number any time of the day. Call now and get free shipping. Plus, we'll bill your insurance company for you. Satisfaction guaranteed. Don't wait until it's too late. Take control of your diabetes now. Just call 800-233-6176. That's 800-233-6176.
Attention parents of children diagnosed with cerebral palsy, Erb's palsy, or another birth injury. If you suspect that a medical mistake may have occurred at or near the time of birth, your child may have important legal rights. Call Science in Kirk for a free case evaluation. Cerebral palsy is a permanent disability that may be the result of brain damage suffered during pregnancy, delivery, or shortly after birth. A failure to follow the proper standard of care may be the cause of your child's injury. A lifetime of medical care can cost millions of dollars. Protect your family and find out whether financial compensation may be available. Cases are also being investigated for children diagnosed with Erb's palsy, also known as shoulder dystocia or brachial plexus injury. If you suspect that your child's disability could have been prevented, don't wait. Get a free case evaluation.
Call 1-800-596-2340. That's 1-800-596-2340.
Weekday afternoons, focus on the lighter side.
We want to show you there's always a silver lining.
Afternoon Focus. Today at 4:30, 3:30 Central on Scripps News.
Welcome back to Scripps News Live. In real time here, we're seeing the idea of marriage change. New studies are revealing that more married couples are living apart and redefining traditional gender roles. Our Lauren Magarino explains why.
From Gwyneth Paltrow to Julia Roberts, some say the key to strengthening a marriage might be separate addresses. And it's now becoming a growing trend called living apart together. Evian Whitney and husband of 15 years, Jonathan Mead, experienced it firsthand.
I wanted to see who I was when being somebody's partner, being somebody's wife, wasn't at the center of my universe.
Before pandemic lockdowns forced Americans inside, the couple decided to stay together from afar in February of 2020. Meade stayed at their home in Oregon. Whitney moved to Los Angeles, 1,000 miles away, where a planned few weeks apart turned into 11 months living apart together.
Like, I really felt such a spaciousness to be able to accommodate my needs, my wants, my desires.
It's important to note living apart together, or LAT relationships, don't always mean long distance. The LAT lifestyle is about choice and can range from a few to thousands of miles physically separating a married couple. Long distance typically is a result of changing circumstance. Between 2000 and 2022, the percentage of married people living separately grew by more than 40%. The latest U.S. Census shows the figure spiked in 2022 to roughly 3.89 million American married adults living apart.
The people who are actually choosing it as a lifestyle are often people who have children from a former relationship.
Author and lifestyle journalist Vicki Larson says absence can make the heart grow fonder.
As Esther Perel says, desire needs some space. Ask any person who's in a LAT relationship what are the best things about it, and they will without a doubt say sex.
For Whitney and Meade, space made way for both partners to focus on emotional and mental healing.
If I take this time for myself, that means that I can better show up to my relationship with my partner and be really clear about what I want, what I need, and also we can build something so much stronger than we had before.
The idea of living apart together was highlighted in the New York Times in December. The article cited women's well-being as a driver for the decision, allowing them to reap the benefits of marriage while avoiding traditional at-home burdens.
It alleviates the gendered roles that people have for women, you know, that we will be the cookers and the cleaners.
Having that space and that time really allowed me to get clear about how I want my gender to be expressed, celebrated, honored, and acknowledged within the relationship.
Though the lifestyle comes at a cost. 2 homes means 2 rent payments or mortgages. Government data shows the average person living alone spends about 36% more in housing annually compared to a married couple living together.
It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of financial security to do this long term.
And married while living apart may not be for everyone. Insecurities and jealousy could force couples to grow apart. The secret?
Communicate, communicate, communicate. You have to have a lot of trust, and you have to set up ways to grow that trust together because you're not around.
Today, Whitney and Meade live together under one roof. They said it was spearheaded by political uncertainty during the last presidential inauguration.
I think we both just got to a point within this experience where we're like, okay, I think we're good. Like, I think we've got what we needed from it. We can get a divorce tomorrow. We don't have to be together, but we're choosing actively every single day to be together. And I think that is just one piece that I learned and I got from living apart.
Lauren Magarino, Scripps News.
And coming up next, an asteroid will meet a fiery end high above the Earth today. We're going to have the details on what you can expect right after a quick break.
This year, Americans will spend $41 billion on auto repairs.
That's right, billions with a B. Why is that number so high? Because cars break down. Your vehicle is going to end up in a shop like this too, and if it's no longer under warranty, you're the one who has to pay the bill, and it could cost you thousands of dollars. That is, unless you call CarShield. With a plan through CarShield, administrators will pay for those costly repairs directly to the mechanic of your choice, including dealerships. That means you get protection on major parts and systems like the engine, transmission, electrical systems, and more. Plus, 24/7 emergency services for flat or damaged tires, lockouts, dead batteries, and towing at no additional cost. And there are even rental car options to keep you on the road.
An unexpected car repair can wreak havoc in somebody's house when they don't have the money. Nobody should have to decide whether they should put food on the table or pay for a car repair. If you're driving an out-of-warranty car, it's not a matter of if it'll break down, it's when. So you need to call CarShield before it does. It's nice to find a company like CarShield that actually cares about their customers.
CarShield has a rich history of dependability, reliability, and success, and has been featured on leading networks like ABC, CNN, Fox News, and more. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company.
My mom told me to call CarShield, and I saved $5,000. You should always listen to your mom.
As soon as my car broke down, CarShield jumped into action, and I had my car back within days.
I've been with CarShield for close to 7 years. I have 3 vehicles covered, and I saved close to $9,000.
I called CarShield and saved over $5,000.
Yes, CarShield is a good value. Every plan through CarShield comes with a price lock guarantee, which means no matter how many repairs you need, the price you pay today will never change for as long as you cover your car.
Call now and save money with your price lock guarantee. It's not a matter of if your car will break down, but when. Call CarShield now before it's too late. Call 800-287-5264. 800-287-5264.
A couple more stories before we let you go, starting at the happiest place on earth. Disney fans, listen up, because water from Disney World Splash Mountain is now up for sale after the famed ride closed for good on Monday. You can now find several listings on eBay, ranging from a mason jar of water for $25 to a Ziploc bag for $5,000. Yes, there is no telling what could be in the water. There is really no way to authenticate it. The park is rebranding and reopening Splash Mountain as Tiana's Bayou Adventure. So Barbie is honoring the life and legacy of the first Black and Native American female pilot, Bessie Coleman. Toy maker Mattel is announcing the new Bessie doll in honor of her birthday, which is today. And as you can see right here, her Barbie wears a traditional olive green aviator suit, complete with those tall lace-up boots, and she's got the cap right there. If you look closely, it has her initials on it. It's all part of the Barbie Inspiring Women series, which pays tribute to women who've taken big risks and paved the way for generations of girls who are daring to dream big. Finally, an asteroid the size of a box truck is going to be zooming over the southern tip of South America today.